Why? There will never be another Rebelde. Disclaimer. This was planned to go out in October. It's now February, so a lot of what I was going to predict will either be removed or just left in. So this video is from an outsider's perspective. I was never a fan back then, or even now. I just think that their projection and success is interesting, and I don't think it will happen again. At least in the next 10 to 15 years. And I really didn't do research on it, so how I knew about them. So again, I didn't watch the show, and I barely did any research when I discovered them, or when random questions came up from interviews or performances. So let's start with how I discovered them. Technically, I knew about them when I was a toddler because of my cousins. What I know now had their, I think, Brazil concert movie. I knew they were a band and had a show, and that was about it. So fast forward to 2020 when they were going to do the virtual performance. Leading up to it, I saw a promo and know someone who looked familiar. Because I never really knew about them to a full extent, I never really noticed Maite Peroni, I think you say it, was in the band. I also recognized Christian from La Casa de las Flores because I googled him from seeing him from somewhere else. Other than that, I didn't know anything. So because I watched the promo videos and stuff, I got recommended reactions to their performances from vocal coaches, and that led to my 3 a.m. binge watching these and getting Rebelde lore in the comments. So I got the who is who, who's with who, and who's with who in the show. After watching the virtual performance, which also low-key, they didn't need those like stage effects they were doing. I think it would have been better to just do the real stage and make sets. But because of the pandemic, they probably couldn't. Successful. From an outsider's point of view, with little to no research, which kind of goes against what I think people should be posting if they know nothing about. From someone who can't even find who wrote a song if you wanted to, I think there was 2 main factors, or 3 I guess. 4 if you count that the songs are just catchy and the vibe. They just kind of hype you up. 1. The show. To start off, the show was successful. So that alone gave it a leg to stand on to be able to be a strong and musical side of things. So it wasn't like they were a random group of mixed genders, which I will get into later. They had the backing of the audience and success of the show that 99%, not even just bands but artists, don't have. Even then, still not a guaranteed success like in the US. The Victorious Cast tour coming anything close to this. With them liking the show, they're more likely to going to like or care about one of the characters. So when you see the actor playing your favorite character, you're going to follow them to their music that you already know and probably like because it's in the show. Number 2, the people. Other than the fact that you could love the character, the group members' own real personality they choose to promote themselves as is going to get more fans. Loyal prior ones and new ones. 3, mixed gender. I think it's hard to promote a group that has mixed genders due to people's own willingness to listen to people of the same gender unless it's something mainstream like rap, for example. Especially men, where it could be a problem with women mostly talking about younger girls. Maybe would be if they didn't like the woman in the group because they didn't want them with one of the guys, with shipping culture, for example. Other than that, just haven't seen that many, if any, pop up in the last decade or 2. Also, to the degree of success that they had being one of Mexico's biggest artists. Also, Mexico being one of the most successful places to create mixed gender groups since the later part of the 1900s. I know that other countries have mixed gendered bands, but maybe I just never heard about them because I'm not looking for it. I do know there's a newish K-pop group with mixed genders that came out a year or 2 ago, but I also found out only because I googled it. If there were any new mixed gendered bands. While I was going to record, I remembered Manskin, but I'm mostly talking about bands where all the members sing, not like a group that plays instruments with a main singer, for example. why there would never be another Rebelde. So I lied. There already was another Rebelde show. I am a little bit biased, not because I watched the first one, but because I don't like remakes. At least early remakes. I don't think you should make a remake of a show if it's been less than at least 2 decades. And I believe if I remember correctly, it was announced that there was going to be a remake around the time the virtual concert came out, but I could be wrong. Like the main one, I also didn't watch it, but knew it was coming out. Compared to the OG, it only got 2 seasons and got cancelled by poor viewership. It is hard to compare them because one is a Mexican style of TV with hundreds of episodes, 439, compared to 2 seasons of 8 episodes per season. Other than that, I just don't know. Or it could, but would be hard to make a show on the whole part of it that they don't conform to society. Am I right? Another edit. Wanted to add that Netflix doesn't let shows build a core audience, so that is also a big component of why the Rebelde show could have been cancelled. And like most of their shows, now they just make them like Elite, which was said to be a mix of Rebelde and Gossip Girl when it was being promoted when it came out. Now even Elite wants to be the old Elite, losing plot for sex appeal. Comparing their Spotify monthly streams to it doesn't compare. The remake having 192.9k a month at the time of making the script compared to Rebelde's 6.2 million. I honestly thought it would be more than that, them being one of Mexico's biggest artists. I was thinking of watching both shows and listening to both discographies, but that's hours of time I would never get back and would probably be a hate walk. Now, in present day, it shows that the success they had by selling out shows. I kind of wanted to go into a little bit of the way they perform and what's being said. I wasn't up to date with how they were talked about when they first started, but I can assume some things. If now they have not just openly gay man, but also not afraid to show it, can only imagine how it was when he was outed in 2007. Even though it's been more than a decade, Mexico is still super homophobic. Even though the television companies are trying to pretend they are making change. Or if you follow them back then, how were the girls portrayed in the media? Because how is it 2023 and 2 of the women are getting fat shamed? Also, one just had a baby, like that even matters? It's so weird to me why they care that they weigh more than they did when they were in their late teens and early 20s. Not everyone stays the same size all their life. And the other criticism I saw was just Christian wearing a pink, I think it was a charro suit. When I saw it, I tried to look it up for like 5 minutes and gave up. But does anyone know why it was an issue or what the problem was with him wearing a pink one? I know like an organization of something made a comment about it, but I don't know why it was an issue. Because I saw that he had made an apology video or said that he shouldn't have done it or something like that. But that takes me into wardrobe. I honestly like that they didn't try to go back for the distressed looks they had back then, because it would be harder to make look not tacky, I feel. Or they could have just done the same outfits for some songs. Even like the guys are pretty good or okay. Sometimes Christian looks like he's in pajamas, and Christian sometimes looks weird, but they are horrible. The girls are okay too. Anahi still has the same type of style-ish, like a skirt, a bra or a bralette or a crop top. And Dulce and Maite are more full bodysuit type things, which don't look bad either. One thing about the backup dancers, they don't need them, but also it doesn't make it worse. I guess now that they have one less person and also are not moving as much because they are younger at it. In more earlier shows of what I saw, but towards the end of the tour, they might have just been the videos I was seeing. It still looks good. If it was all of them, I would say it depends on the show, because sometimes it looks crowded when it's just a stage and not the runway part. 2. Last would be the pairs. Since Poncho is gone, that one's out, but mainly want to talk about Dulce and Christopher. How I'm hoping it's new fans and not just grown adults saying that they were meant to be, or that they should be together when I know one has a partner and has a kid. I was going to initially go into that Christopher was more distant with the woman, but towards the end, it kind of wasn't there anymore. Mainly talking about how when they had their part in Este Corazón, they obviously aren't basically almost kissing anymore, but even if they were, it's acting like they were back then. But I understand why they don't. I would like to think they talked about it beforehand to see what the other was comfortable with, how it could be turned into a big situation with tabloids and the internet, how they are still shipped and how they want to be together. One example was when they had a group huddle, someone zoomed into their hands holding, saying it was meant to be. But towards the end, they looked more comfortable, no longer 5 feet apart. They still pointed towards the crowd when saying some of the lyrics though. Now, why there would never be another Rebelde. In order for it to work and be as successful, I think they would need to basically follow the same steps they did for the original, but also push it more than just a show, equal parts acting and singing group. If one lacks, then it can't succeed. They would need to probably push the songs in the trailers, at least a few, so they can trend by the time the show airs. Also releasing the album like the OG did before the show even starts, making the show not feel like it's trying so hard to be different. So yeah, that was my random unnecessary take on a topic that was supposed to take me a week tops to put out, but it's almost been 6 months since I started. It was supposed to be an easier deal with no rewatch, to be my first video to see how to do things, but was low-key harder to do than I thought. Since it was around their tour, the video could perform, but oh well, I guess. Let me know what you think would need to happen for Rebelde to be successful like it was prior, or also if you were an active fan in their prime and why you think, or if you know why it was successful. And remember, all I do is lie.